Hello, and welcome back to Wisdom in Action, the podcast where we explore what it takes to bridge the gap between knowing and doing, because that's where the real wisdom is born. I'm Ostra Potninja, resilience coach and podcast strategist, and I created the space to have honest conversations with real experts and bring you practical insights you can apply, not just think about. Today, we're joined by Sandra Doyle, an author, speaker, and deathcare professional with over 14 years of experience working in cemeteries, guiding more than 200 families a year through pre-need and at-need arrangements, and witnessing over 100 burials annually. Her book, My Life at the Cemetery, It's Not as Dead as You Think, explores the profound, funny, and deeply human experiences that shaped her spiritual journey. Sandra, welcome to Wisdom in Action.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just a fan. And to find out you're over in Europe, I'm going, wow. So
The
thank you
beauty
so
of
much.
internet, we can connect wherever we are.
That's right. It's, being my age, because I will soon turn 80, I am just amazed at the technology and the ability to talk to people across the ocean, the ability to talk to people, hundreds of miles away. Um, That is such a blessing. It really is. So thank you for all you do.
Well, thank you for what you do. So, to start us off, what is one piece of wisdom that changed everything once you started applying it?
The biggest part of wisdom, which before I wrote the book, I was diagnosed with lung cancer, and I was diagnosed with second stage COPD. And I came home from the doctor's office, and my son was here, and he took me in his arms and he was crying. He's 54. And he said, "Mom, I can't fix this for you." And something inside me said, "Don't worry, honey, I'll fix it." And so I started researching, and I found out about the power of meditation. I found out that I already always known that there was a power in your words. So I started affirmations big time. I also started a meditation, a healing meditation, where the white light would go through me and heal. And I gave up sugar at that particular time because I know cancer feeds on sugar. I started searching exactly why did some people through prayer lived and overcame, and then some people didn't. So I continued my journey. I got second and third opinions, medical opinions as to what they could do for me. And the one that would probably been the easiest, but they wanted to remove half of my lung. And I thought, I can't do that. If I have second stage COPD and I do that, I'll be on oxygen the rest of my life. And so that's when I started researching other things, other options as far as that goes. And I learned to be grateful. Gratitude and love are the biggest things you can do in this life for yourself, your family, your friends, your country, everything. It's gratitude. And so every day before I get up, I go to the bathroom, I come back, I lay down, and I start thanking God, the universe. And I start with the soles of my feet, my toes, my ankles, my shins, my calves, my knees, my thighs, my hips, my backbone, my organs, my heart, my brain, my eyes, my ears, because I have realized we are wonderfully made and we're unique. And when I realized that and I started the gratitude, I found that I actually loved myself. You know, 70 years, I never loved myself. but I really love me now, and I even like me. So and I'm not being arrogant or anything like that. I enjoy reading. I enjoy watching YouTubes. I enjoy learning, and so I enjoy people. And so the more I can do and the more I can feed myself with that, the better I like it.
Self-love journey. What a journey that is. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
what are some of the things that you have learned about self-love?
It is the feeling inside of peace, the feeling inside that it's okay, the feeling inside that, well, if you mess up, so what? You learn from that and you go on. It doesn't have to be a thing that you beat yourself up, which I did forever and a day. You know, I never thought I was a good wife. I never thought I was a good mother. I never thought I was a really good grandmother. I always wanted to be more and more and more. And then after I realized the power of love for me and the gratitude for me, then everything switched. It just actually just shifted. And the gratitude isn't just for every part of my being, but it's every part of my life and every part of the creator that created me. That is the biggest, um, everybody is searching, but search within, find that peace within, find that love within, give gratitude for it because you're here for a reason. You're here for a purpose. You're here for love. So,
That's a very good point. And I think especially in today's like age where I learned this I think it was last year when I was doing half Ironman, like ultra triathlon, and I gave myself 90 days to train for it. And that would mean I would be training like 20 hours a week with hopes I will get good enough to be able to finish it. But what happened was that I realized that I felt much more connected with myself because I would spend a lot more
mhm,
time with myself. Because when I'm cycling, I don't have headphones on. It's just me and the bike, and that's it. Swimming, same thing. Running, sometimes I would have something, but a lot of times it would be just me and me just running. And I realized how distracted we have become from ourselves. And a lot of
mhm,
the answers we actually have already within us, but we're so conditioned to go and search for all the answers externally, everything externally, that we don't even consider to look within and sit with ourselves and be with, not by ourselves, but with ourselves. And there's a big
mhm.
difference. And
Yes.
that's something that I have realized also, that the stronger relationship you build with yourself, the better you can show up for others, the better
Mhm.
you feel in general, and the less um you kind of are less, it's harder to disrupt your peace when you have
Mhm.
good relationship with yourself.
Right, right. And you are very blessed to know that at your age and not wait until you're 70 to find that out.
Do
So,
you have any, this is interesting for me to explore. Do you have any regrets, let's say discovering self-love or learning to love yourself at that age? Do you have any regrets looking back? Because I would assume that a lot of people realize, oh, I don't love myself, or they start to get on the self love journey, a lot of the times they might look back and have all the what ifs or regrets.
there was a lot of them, basically wasting the time of feeling, about poor me, you know, or that I wasn't smart enough, or I was too fat, or I wasn't good enough, or, those kind of things, the waste of that. Um, that's would be my biggest regret, I think, more than anything, is the waste of time and energy and love where I could have been focused more on me and focused more on other people, instead of the poor me syndrome. Um, I believe in positivity. I believe in optimism. I am a optimist. I belong to Optimist International, which is a um, club that we focus on helping kids in communities. Um, I was the vice president last year of Middle America, which meant I traveled all through the Midwest to the different clubs and talked to them and to see what they were all about and to see. We think in this day and age that nobody cares and that nobody does anything. But let me tell you, some of the things that I heard that some of the clubs do out there for kids in their communities or for the others in their communities. I mean, I was at an Optimist meeting last night and heard them talking about um, food and how many boxes of food that they were going to donate this year for Christmas, um, to do a Head Start Christmas party to make sure that those kids have a great Christmas, knowing that it might be the best Christmas they ever have. Um, Doing, the baseball or the basketball or essay contest or the oratorical. The Optimist International is very big in oratorical all over the world. We have kids that come up to 18. And I thought, wow, I mean, to hear them speak is just astounding. So, um, yeah, I mean, I'm very thankful for my life. It took me a long time to learn the regrets. I guess maybe I would have never come to this place had I not been at that place. So, in my life.
And the other thing is that nowadays we have way more resources,
Yes.
so much information, easily accessible that you probably didn't have.
Oh, no.
So that's
Mhm.
where the whole growth and even healing it has sped up a
Yes.
lot, especially with my generation. A lot of us were working through our traumas and childhoods and everything in between. Um, and partly also it's probably because we had some space to do that.
Right.
And resources to be able to be curious and research more and look more into it, which has this positive and negative sides, but
Right.
but let's focus on positives for the time being. Um,
Yes.
I also wanted to touch on and talk about well, death, and also you having experienced such a closeness with it for 14 years working at cemetery.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you learned about life through that?
I found out, first of all, that death will bring out the best in people, but it'll also bring out the worst in people. I
Uh,
have had people that have remained friends, but I also have had people that I had to call the sheriff to come out and to break up or to handle the situation. Yeah. So it brings out the best and it brings out the worst in people. And I think it's because there's a lot of guilt and there's a lot of adrenaline going at the time of a death, especially if it's a parent. So there's a lot of I should have, I would have, I could have, why didn't I, all of that. And so um, that would be the biggest thing as far as looking at people overall, that people are people. And I can tell you, especially after this journey, that every birth is different, every death is different, and every life, even though there may be similar things going on, but every life is different. And those stories should be wrote and put out there, not only for yourself, but it might help somebody else down the road, or it might help your children or your grandchildren. And maybe your great grandchildren, maybe one of them wants to know, what was my great grandma like? What did she have to go through? And I think it's important that we write our stories.
This is interesting. There's few things that I can add from myself. I heard one entrepreneur speak once, Jeff Sisler. He was talking about he was on an interview and he was asking the person how old are his parents. So let's say they're 60. And then he asked how often you visit them. And he was like twice a year. And he said, let's say they live another 20 years. You don't have 20 years with them. You have 40 times with them,
Mhm.
realistically, if you visit them twice a
Right.
year. And something in that really shifted my perspective towards things because, like, for me, I'm not living at my home country. So I don't meet my family like as often. But what I have started to do is when I am home, I'm super present. I don't work. I don't distract myself. I'm having intentional conversations with people in my life, with my like brothers, with my parents, with my grandma as well. And the other thing that happened was so that's the first thing. The second thing was that when I was in my grandfather's funeral, we had like pastor talk about him, and I realized I didn't know him. He has done so many impressive things that I had no idea about, and I think it helped me to approach it with more like curiosity when even like having conversations with my grandma. When we sit down, I would ask questions and hear stories, and it's been so interesting how, and it's very interesting also how the relationships have shifted. They're very different. There's much more sense of like closeness and connection. But if I didn't really hear those lessons, I probably would be one of those people that career is priority. I need to focus on the work. I don't really have time for anything else. That's like I need to chase, achieve, and all that, which I still do. I'm an achiever. But it made me realize how important it is to be more mindful and present while you have those people in your life before it's too late
Exactly.
and you look back and you have regrets.
You do. When my, I guess my grandmother had passed away when first really hit me. And I kept thinking, why didn't I ask her this? Why didn't I ask her that? I have no clue what it was like growing up in her age and um, and what did she have to go through. She had 8 children also, or had 8 children, and it could not have been easy. My grandfather worked in a coal mine. I know there was a spell there that he had broke his back and he laid up in the bed for 6 months. I have no clue how they ate, and now I wonder, you know, and I'll never know. So,
I think the other thing is that with having those conversations, you start to understand, let's say, and I wanted to touch on parents because you said that with losing parents, there's more severe like reactions or behaviors. Um, it helped. I know for me that the more I understood my parents as human beings, not just mom and dad, the more compassion I had towards them, and the less I would be like. I think like all kids, we have some kind of resentment about some of the things that our parents did or didn't do or whatever might be the case. But through having conversations, understanding them, hearing their stories, um, I have been able to have more compassion and understand them and not to blame them, point fingers, but actually be grateful.
yes, that is so true. That is so true. And the stories, they mean a lot. I mean, people will say, oh, well, were in the old times. We don't need to know that. But yes, you do, because you are a sum product of those stories that happen. Um, and I think it's very important. So that's
Do you
just me.
know why there's like more severe reactions when it comes to losing a parent from what you have observed?
I, because for me, when I lost both my parents, I lost my dad in January, and then I lost him the last of April, and then my mother the following January, and they both had cancer. But the thing about it was that after mom died, it was like it was almost like sheer abandonment
Mm.
because those people loved me unconditionally, It made no difference how much I messed up or screwed up or how many times, they sat and listened to me or cry or go on and how many kids I had. They were there to babysit. I always said they might not have been the best parents in the world, but they sure were the best grandparents because, they'd make special trips to come and get my older two and take them out for ice cream. So, um, but it was the abandonment. They were gone, and you felt totally, totally alone. And yes, you still had children, you still had a spouse, or you had somebody that loved you, but not unconditionally like your parents did.
Mm, that's very that makes a lot of sense. I could see that. Did you have like any how did you go through that?
It was um, it was hard. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard. But I had 7 kids that kept me busy, and so I didn't really dwell on it a lot until later on. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me that I really miss them. What you would give for one more day at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. And my dad loved to bake cream pies. He'd make the best lemon meringue pie or a chocolate pie. And he would get us up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because he couldn't sleep, so he made pies, so he thought we should get up and have a pie. So, those things, you miss those things from just sitting at the kitchen table, having a piece of pie, a cup of coffee, and talking, just talking,
It's the simple things.
the simple things. It's exactly right.
It's not the big grand gestures or anything like that. It's very interesting even when I would do some meditations or visualizations. I always mess up this word. Um, when I would have to think of different memories from past that would make me
Mhm.
happy, I would remember so many small experiences
Yeah,
that I would have forgotten. And looking back seems so insignificant, but it was so powerful at the same time.
I can tell you the one thing that here, if my kids, all 7 of them get together and they're talking, and they come up with things that I do not remember it being that way, but it's how they saw it. You would have thought they were the most deprived children there ever was, and that mom was mean. And I would say, "I didn't do that." And they'd say, "Mom, you were always threatening." And I said, "Yeah, but I didn't do it. I just threatened." So, yeah.
So when it comes to the end of life and arranging uh what is it, like discussing death and all that, what would you say to somebody who might be afraid of it? They might not want to have that conversation. There's so much like fear around it as well and discomfort.
I lost my husband 10 years ago. And after he had cancer, and he also had an autoimmune disease to start with, which was called CIDP, which is chronic inflammatory debilitating polyneuropathy. And it took me 2 years to learn how to say that. But one minute he was on the golf course. He was on the golf course on a Sunday afternoon, and Thursday he could not move anything but his left hand. He was completely paralyzed. All the disease had just taken all his muscles. And so watching him, and then 3 to 4 years into it when he could walk on a walker, he could dress himself, but he could never put his shoes on. But he could feed himself with his left hand. Um, then we found out that he had stage 3 lung cancer. So then from then on, it was every week we were going for blood phoresis, or we were going to radiation, or we were going for chemotherapy, or checking him out, all of this. And and I wondered, I witnessed burials. I stayed with that casket until the vault was closed before I left it. And I always wondered, would I be able to do that with my own husband? And I can tell you that when he passed away, I was the one that everything kicked in. My old training, the old things that I had done. And so I helped my children. I consoled my children and my grandchildren. I consoled his golf buddies, you know, the people that he was close to. Um, and I thought, yeah. And when I wrote this book, I had heard people say, like Mary Morrissey or Bob Proctor or whatever, you're spiritual beings having a human experience. You're not a human being having a spiritual experience. And when I got done with the book and I got done with my husband's story, I thought that is so true. You know, I every time I went to a burial, I would always say, "Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord. Let perpetual light shine upon them, and may they rest in peace, and bless their families." That's what I did. And I always just got the thing, all is well. Didn't make any difference whether they were Jewish or whether they were Catholic, whether they were Protestant or whether they were Nazarene or whether they were Indians or Arabs or, from the Asia. It didn't make any difference what their religion was or if they didn't have any. The only time that I ever did not have a good feeling about it was watching, the guy had committed suicide, but his wife was up and she was like it was a theater. She's just screaming and crying and carrying on and kinda rocking the casket, and I just got this feeling that it was all show, it was all cold. I couldn't I had a hard time with it. But outside of that, there was a comfort, and so going back over that and writing this book, yeah, we're spiritual beings. That body may die, and it may be in that hole, or it may be cremated, or it may be in a mausoleum. Makes no difference. That soul continues. That spirit, it remains. And they'll come back and visit you if you ask them. Sometimes they come back and you don't want them.
I'm curious because it sounds like you have gone through a lot of the things in your life. When it comes to spiritual journey, what are your thoughts or lessons or maybe like purpose you have found in pain or suffering?
I don't like pain. I don't care if it's mental, emotional, or physical. I don't like it. Um, but I also know that sometimes the pain is there to teach us. But I also believe that even though the pain is there, you probably have the ability deep down in to change it or to accept it or to heal it or whatever. I I just do. I mean, I believe that we are more powerful than we ever thought we were, and we have no clue how powerful we are. And I have seen too many people that have that shouldn't be here that are, and so many people have already gone that shouldn't have, So that is I think it has a lot to do with what you have inside you.
Yes. And I had a friend of mine tell me because I said, "Oh, I hope I will reach my potential." And he told me the best you can do is keep scratching the surface because your
Mhm.
potential is limitless.
That's
And
exactly right.
I think that's true with all of us, that we have no idea what's inside of us until we actually go and explore and try. And big part of it is overcoming, because a lot of the growth, it doesn't come with comfort. It doesn't come with feeling like sitting cozy on a sofa. Um, for the most part, it is much more uncomfortable than that. But the insights that you can get, they're really powerful. And it's partly what I'm trying to do with, I don't even know if I try to do, I just kind of do it. I go through a lot of uncomfortable situations, like all the endurance races, or this is my third country that I'm living in, or like starting my business or podcast or whatever it might be. But a lot of it is trying to intentionally put myself in uncomfortable situations to learn about myself, to explore and to understand deeper or apply different tools so that when somebody asks something they might need help with, I have something I can give them. There's something I have tried that might help, or there's somebody that I know that they might talk to, because a lot of it is like just growing together, or as the podcast name is, it's wisdom is not enough. You have to put it in practice. And through putting it in practice, that's where we can learn a lot.
Yeah. And the one thing I found as far as prayer or whatever, you can pray all day long. And yes, I believe God hears you. But if you don't take any action towards that, nothing's going to happen. You know, you've got to, action is just as important. And it took me a long time to learn that too, because, you know, I'm one of those that, Lord, help me, and then not do anything. So, I
I think we all have gone through that
yes,
at least once
at least
in our
once.
lifetimes.
Yeah.
I wanted to also ask, what are some of the things that people misunderstand about cemeteries or the process of making the final arrangements?
Um, wow. I think they don't realize for sure what the person or a funeral director, a cemetery counselor, what they go through and how it can emotionally affect them. You know, some of the things that I saw and some of the things, I mean, many times I bowed my head and cried after somebody left, um, because I felt totally useless because I couldn't help them, you know. Um, and there was some things that had happened that were um, just tragic, needless, endless. Um, you know, we had, and I think the title of that chapter is "Grief Can Kill." Um, had a 16-year-old girl had a fight with her boyfriend, and they had been together supposedly since they were 11, and he had told her that he thought that they should take a break and explore what else was out there because they were each other's best friends and all of this, and she had plans for marriage and all they were going to do and all that. And she went home and she called her mother. She was hysterical, and her mom said, "I'll be there in just a few minutes." Um, and her mother walked in, and she had got the gun out of her dad's gun case and shot herself, killed herself. And it was so tragic in the sense that his brother and his sister and her two brothers literally had to help them come into the cemetery and to the funeral home, and they had no clue what anybody was talking about. Okay. So, after the funeral, and about, oh, I don't know, I noticed at the cemetery that the mother every evening, like at 5 o'clock, she was there and she'd be sitting on the ground there by her daughter's burial site, and she would be talking or she would be reading the Bible or, whatever. And so one day I was out in the gardens and I just went by and asked her how she was doing. And she said, I'm doing okay. She said, but my husband isn't. She said he blames God. He thinks that God took his baby and allowed that to happen. And she said, all he does is sit at home drinking, staring at the TV set. And she said, if you would you please pray for us? Because he will not let anybody come in or talk to him or any of that. He just sits there and drinks from morning to night and blames God and cusses God. And I said, yes, I'd put them on a prayer chain. And I left. And it was about 3 months after that that we got the call that he died. And it said alcoholic poisoning, but it was grief. I mean, it was just flat grief that he could not accept life without his little girl. And the blame was on God. And yeah, it was just one of the most tragic things witnessing that I had ever saw.
How do you take care of your mental health while going through all this and witnessing all that?
Um, I did a lot of walks. I did a lot of walks through the cemetery. There was paved roads all over. I did a lot of walks. When I was in my car, I cranked up the radio for music. I love music, but I cranked the radio up, whether that was Elvis gospel or whether it was anything else, something upbeat. Um, I went out to eat with friends. I spent time with my children. Um, Babysat a lot with my grandkids too at that time. So, yeah, you have to focus on something else other than what you've seen and what you've witnessed. And you have to be able to just pray for them and go on, ask God's blessing upon them or the blessings of the universe on them um, to help them get through what they're going through.
Yeah, and it's a lot because it's not like you can also control the schedule
No,
of
no,
the of
no, you
or
can't.
what kind of stories will
No,
come in.
and it's true. You never knew from one minute to the next what was going to walk through that door. And it might be, as I said before, it might be a great experience, maybe somebody funny, but it might also be the most tragic thing you've ever heard in your life.
So with your book, you have the title "My Life at the Cemetery is Not as Dead as You Think." What is the
Yes.
not dead part of it?
um, it wasn't. It wasn't dead, that's for sure. As I said, I didn't know what was coming through the door.
Yeah.
There was a lot of good. There was a lot of sad. There was a lot of shaking my head in disbelief of people. Um, I'm very thankful for the experience um, because I think that helped me see life a little different than what I had before. And, and it's in my storyline, but there was a gentleman that worked at the cemetery and he'd been there a long time before I came. And he would come in and he would say, well, I planted another one for the good Lord today. And so finally one day I asked him about that. I said, why do you say that? And he told me the story of his wife who had had a heart attack at age 40. and it had killed 2/3 of her heart. And they told her she wouldn't have 6 months to live. But it had been 40 years, and she had used affirmations every morning, uh, mostly affirmations out of the Bible for healing and all of that. And she lived another 45 years, I think. And he said, "We're here, but when we die, we're going back to our Maker." And I thought, that's true. That is so true. So, a spiritual being having a human experience. I do believe that we're here to learn. I do believe that we're here to love, and I do believe we're here to experience. And that's everything else is a plus or a minus.
What is it that you have learned about yourself in those 14 years of working there?
That I have a lot of empathy and a lot of caring for other people. That
You
was
have to
the
have
one
big
thing.
capacity for that.
Yes, yes. And more appreciative of life, period. You know, um, people are fantastic. They're wonderfully made, for number one. For number two, the things they experience, I do believe should be broke down. As I said before, um, I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe that the one thing that I learned is to have compassion for others. And it doesn't make any difference what color you are, whether you're white, red, brown, black, yellow, purple, makes no difference. You are a person, you are a spiritual being. And I do believe that we're all connected.
That's beautiful. So, before I ask you the last question, where can people learn about you, connect with you? Also, feel free to plug in the book.
My life at the cemetery, it's not as dead as you think. I don't know whether you can see it or not. Yeah. And it managed to get the Book Fest #2 in professional um, memoirs. So I
Oh,
was proud of that.
nice.
But they're all short little stories that, they might be a page long, they might be 3 pages, but it's a book designed that you can take it with you on the airplane and read stories and, you know, it would keep you thoroughly entertained because there's a lot of laughter, there's a lot of crying, there's a lot of sadness in it. So, you can buy it at Amazon. You can get it at, book Barnes& and Nobles, Goodreads, thrift store, all of the major things. If they don't carry it, they can order it for you. Okay.
All right. And we will have it in show notes as well. So, last question I have for you. What is one piece of wisdom you're still learning to live?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. I just told a friend the other day, she said something about, "Are we ever gonna get all of this learned?" And I said, "Even if we were 5, we would never get it all learned in this day and age. No, definitely not." Um, I think the one thing that I am learning is just how magnificent life is, the universe is, the planets, the earth. If you stop and you really think about what the earth is made of and how the trees, they're just like people. You can look at them, and I can look out right now and see probably 200 trees, and none of them are the same. They're all different. They may curve this way, they may curve that way, they may have branches on them down here, they may have branches on them up there, but they're all different, just like people. So accept, if I was giving a piece of advice, is accept people where they are and how they are and love them the way they are and pray for them.
Beautiful. Well, Sandra, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. It was a very interesting conversation.
Well, I hope somebody got something out of it. And I hope they go buy the book because
Yes.
I do. Once you realize, this would be the last thing I would say. If you realize that you are a spiritual being and that you're having a human experience, death is so much easier to grasp because you realize that that loved one isn't laying there in that ground. And when you die, you're not going to lay there in that ground. There's something better waiting you. And isn't that more comfortable? Doesn't that give you more peace?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Well, thank you again, Sandra. It was
Thank
beautiful
you.
conversation. And to all of the listeners, if you're an expert with 20 plus years of experience and you want to share your wisdom, there will be details how you can apply to be a guest on the show. And if you want to start the podcast or need help with producing or growing your podcast, there will be details below as well. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.